Hello there guys, Philabo10000 here, bringing you episode 8 of Rate Their Chances Season 2, the series where we rate the chances for potential newcomers making it into the DLC Fighter Pack roster for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, as inspired by the thread of the same name over on Smashboards, which you can find in the description. Want to know if your dream character's been rated already, or have you missed any of the past episodes? Click the card in the top right corner for a link to the series playlist, so you can stay up to date with all of the ratings and more. Or click the spreadsheet link in the description below to view the Season 2 ratings list, featuring all of my rates so far this season. Want your favourite character to be rated? Make sure to leave a comment down below with your dream rating, and if your comment gets the most likes prior to the scripting of the next episode, your character will be rated. The other 3 characters are all chosen from the rest of the highly liked comments as well, and that's the only way your characters will get chosen, so please don't come to my Twitch while I'm streaming Persona 5 to ask if I can rate your favourite character. That's not how it works! With that being said, today's 4 characters we will be rating are KLONOA, from the series of the same name, suggested by Mr. Howell, with 119 likes, the most liked character from the last episode's comments. Ryu Hayabusa, from the Ninja Gaiden series, suggested by Rippin Krippin, with 111 likes. Rayman, from the series of the same name, suggested by Timelim, with 77 likes. And CRONO, from Chrono Trigger, suggested by HyperCustom64 with 91 likes. What a good bunch of characters! Especially as it keeps me from having to rate the likes of Edelgard or the Galar starters, because honestly, the idea that the DLC will end up being another Pokemon character or another Fire Emblem character is the most deflating feeling when there's so much choice out there. It's not like they're bad characters, I'm sure they're all gonna have brilliant movesets if they ever get considered for Smash, but like, this is DLC, I want to be surprised. So anyway, before we get into the ratings, please keep in mind that my opinions and views do not reflect those of the Smash team, Nintendo, Sakurai, or anybody except myself. This series is meant to be a bit of good fun while we wait for the next DLC character to be revealed, and it's always fun to see how right or wrong I'll end up being at the end of the day. Well, without further ado, let us begin. So first up on the chopping block, we have KLONOA, a Namco-owned character whose last official game in his series was in 2008. So he's been out of action for 11 years, but he's had quite the following ever since, constantly getting brought up by niche fans across the years, and now he's going to be rated. KLONOA's main claim to fame is his PlayStation 1 outing, Door to Phantomile, which was a critically well-received success and was one of the first PlayStation games to feature 2.5D gameplay, which is pretty innovative and exciting. KLONOA's also had games on the PS2, the Game Boy, and the Nintendo Wii, so despite his last games being years ago, he's still got presence on Nintendo consoles, which is nice. He's also not been forgotten by Namco, as his character has constantly been referenced in the Tales series, Soul Calibur 5 as well in the form of a keychain, and Tekken 7 as downloadable panel art. He also had a webcomic that lasted until mid-late 2014, and as mentioned before, he's got a bit of a cult following. Now, I won't go too heavily into his moveset as I'm not familiar with his games, but from a cursory glance at some KLONOA gameplay that I was collecting for this video, he has the unique ability to pick up enemies from a distance and throw them into the foreground or background. If he were to get into Smash, I imagine he'd focus heavily on ranged attacks and grappling, which is an archetype we haven't seen much of in Smash before. He also has a design that would perfectly translate into Smash Ultimate, what with his cute appearance that would blend in perfectly with the roster. So gameplay-wise, I don't think he'd be that difficult to implement. The problem comes from his series. Let's be real, it's currently dead, it hasn't had a new game since 2008, and we've seen how Nintendo treats first-party series that haven't had a game in a while. Look at Golden Sun. Massive niche following for Isaac, but due to a lack of games since 2010, Nintendo ignored us. So why would KLONOA A series that's been dead for longer and whose rep isn't even a first-party character, be considered. The only explanation would be that Bandai Namco, who are working on Smash with Sakurai and the team, are getting a rep, and KLONOA was their choice. But with characters like Heihachi and Lloyd Irving, who have a more vocal fanbase requesting them, it's hard to see KLONOA breaking through that to get onto the roster. To further emphasize the death of KLONOA's series, look no further than the film adaptation that was cancelled this January. It had been announced since 2016, only to not come to fruition. If that's not a death sentence for the series, I don't know what is in this day and age. With that in mind though, KLONOA gets a chance score of 1%. The only reason they aren't at 0 is because Namco don't have a lot of characters to really choose from that would fit into Smash, and KLONOA could still very well be a massive surprise pick, but the chances of that happening are about as slim as you can get. As for a want score, KLONOA gets a 60%. I'm not familiar with the character, but I think he's adorable, I think his moveset could be fun, and I'm all for more furry representation on the roster, let's go! Next up on the docket, we've got one of the most iconic gaming ninjas. Ryu Hayabusa is here for his first ever rating. For those not in the know, Ryu is the main character of the Ninja Gaiden series, which is an infamously difficult series of games to master. Both the original NES series and the modern series are known for their ability to make gamers rage quit, and the birds from the original Ninja Gaiden are infamous in the gaming community. As a legacy character, Hayabusa would make quite a bit of sense due to his series history with Nintendo. His series started on Nintendo consoles after all, and while the modern games are certainly well put together titles, when you think of Ninja Gaiden, you think of the NES games, the hardcore difficulty, the music, the gameplay. Ninja Gaiden may have gone multi-platform in the end, but the series is close with Nintendo, and you could easily compare the series to that of Final Fantasy, which also originally started on Nintendo consoles before branching out years later. That being said, the series hasn't seen an official release since early 2014, and hasn't had a release on the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One yet. This is concerning for a larger series like this, as we're coming closer to the end of the lifespan for the PS4 and the Xbox One, so I have to wonder where Ninja Gaiden currently stands as a series, and if there isn't plans in the future in terms of games, would that make the series less enticing to Nintendo, given Sakurai has stated in the past that series with actual futures are better picks for the roster overall? Moving away from the series releases, Ryu himself would obviously be an agile ninja character, though unlike other ninja characters like Sheik or Greninja, Hayabusa is very much attached to the legendary Dragon Sword, which is his trademark weapon. A sword-wielding ninja would certainly be different from any other sword wielder we have so far, as his moveset will be focused on speed and power, and if we remove ninja from the equation, I think the best way I could describe his moveset is like a samurai. And we don't have any Smash characters that really embody this fighting style just yet, even if the weapon is one we've seen before. I'd be intrigued to see this happen, and you can't deny, if we're looking at legacy, Hayabusa is more than worthy of a spot, as much so as Simon is worthy of a spot, as they're both NES legends. Now, Hayabusa is owned by Koei Tecmo, the guys behind Dynasty Warriors, Dead or Alive, and perhaps, most importantly for Nintendo fans, Fire Emblem and Hyrule Warriors. Koei Tecmo has happily worked with Nintendo in the past, with collaborations, and no doubt will be getting more Nintendo Warriors games in the future, so the chances of them potentially being approached for a character like Ryu Hayabusa is actually fairly high. They've worked with Nintendo before, and they're based in Japan, meaning negotiations won't be as strenuous as they would when negotiating with a Western developer. And there are people who feel Ryu Hayabusa should have been in Smash ages ago after all. There are many characters who fans like to bandwagon on, but there are really only a few characters who everyone can agree truly deserve to be on the roster based on merit alone. Ryu Hayabusa is definitely one of those characters who's earned his spot with merit. He's also been featured in a few leaks here and there since December, which is always a good sign as it means he's in the consciousness of the public. So, with all of that in mind, Ryu Hayabusa gets a chance score of 75%. I rate a lot of characters on this show. And every now and then, we get a character that, once I do the research, just makes sense. Whether it's a gut feeling, or perhaps it's just that there aren't many arguments that would hurt the character, they just feel right getting a high chance score. Ryu Hayabusa is one of those characters who I feel just deserves a high chance after looking at all the angles. There's not much you can really say to counter why he should be in, and after Simon got in the base game, seeing Ryu round out the NES Legacy characters would be the cherry on top. As for a 1 score, Ryu Hayabusa gets another 75%. I admittedly haven't played much Ninja Gaiden, I just really like ninjas, like a lot. There's a reason why I play Genji in Overwatch and why Greninja is one of my favourite Smash characters in general, after all. Okay, this might be the shortest segment we've ever done on this show. We're talking about Rayman, a character who received a 25% chance of making it into the base roster, being in my top 20 characters I felt were possible in Season 1. And as such, I've gone over Rayman's merits many times before, so I'd rather not spend too much time on him. So let me quickly recap his pros and cons for you. Pros. Rayman is a character with Nintendo history. He's got a set of iconic platformers and a design that could lend well to Smash. He's got a variety of games to pull from for a moveset, so that shouldn't be much of an issue, and he's owned by Ubisoft, who have been quite close with Nintendo, because they created Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, as well as the Star Fox content on Starlink Battle for Atlas. Now the cons. Rayman already appears in-game as a spirit, and unlike some spirit characters I've rated so far, he's in a very important spot on the world map. Rayman literally cuts off the top left corner of the World of Light, blocking off an exit from the forest area. He's purposefully placed there, and thus, like I said with Viridi back in episode 4, by having a concrete role in the mode, you have to question why the team would make him a spirit, only to then make a fighter later on. They could have simply put the Sukapon spirit as that fight and it would have worked similarly to the one we already got, but they purposefully went with Rayman. That tells me he's probably not in contention just based on that alone. He's also in Brawlhalla, and while I don't think that was a problem for the base game, for DLC I think that means Rayman's missed the mark this time around. It's a real shame, because Rayman would appeal to a lot of people, but perhaps his popularity simply wasn't enough this time round. I'm not dragging this out. Rayman gets a chance score of 0%. I'm starting to come around to the idea that most spirits are out of contention, and I think that might be important for me to keep in mind going forwards. As for a want score, Rayman sticks at a 45%, which is what he got from me in Season 1, because he's a character I'm not terribly familiar with, but with one whom I can respect. So lastly, we're rating Chrono, without a H, from Chrono Trigger with a H. I'll be completely real with everyone here, of the potential square reps on a completely personal note, I want Chrono the most. Because Chrono Trigger is an iconic JRPG that is genuinely, in my opinion, required gaming. Every gamer needs to at least try out Chrono Trigger because it is my top JRPG of all time, and it handles the medium exceptionally well. There's deep lore, deep characters, emotional moments, a brilliant story, great gameplay, a brilliant soundtrack, and one of my favourite characters in gaming, Frog, comes from this game. Chrono, as the main character, would have access to his sword, shocker guys, I know, the main character of a JRPG is a sword wielder, as well as magic attacks to help diversify his moveset. Though don't quote me on which attacks exactly could appear, I haven't played Chrono Trigger in a very long time, so I don't remember the specifics too terribly. What I do know is that Chrono Trigger not being represented in Smash Ultimate with even a spirit is genuinely shocking. It's one of the best games to ever release on a Nintendo console, and yet it isn't even referenced because Square owns the property. That's frustrating. Very, very frustrating, because I want my Frog spirit, damn it! I want my Robo, my Luca, my Marl, my Magus, my Isla. I want my Lavo Stage Hazard. Come on, Square! Realistically though, Chrono Trigger, despite being one of the best SNES games of all time, has a much lower chance of getting picked for Smash this time around. Chrono, as the main character, would have to fight off Erdrick, Sora, and any other Square characters who might show up. He's an icon, and a legend. But is that enough? As a legacy character and a fan favorite, I could see Chrono getting in, but for a DLC fighter pack where the overall aim for the company is to sell said DLC, he's going up against Erdrick, who's from a far superior in sales JRPG franchise that's still going to this day, while Chrono Trigger was simply a one-off with Chrono Cross as a weird sequel, but that was years ago. There's not much competition, guys. That being said, it's not impossible. I think Chrono has a small chance, as he's certainly in the top 10 to 5 characters you could select from Square Enix, and I do think that he's got more of a chance than, say, Geno, who's been spirited away and who has a similar story to Chrono, so that's going to affect his score. Chrono gets a chance score of 25%. The possibility is always there, and I don't think he's the likely Square rep, but on the off chance that Erdrick, Sora, Lara Croft and others are pushed to the side, he'll be waiting. And as for a want score, Chrono gets a fabled 100%. Chrono Trigger is one of the few games that I can safely say deserves to have some recognition in Smash, be it as a spirit, a music track, a stage, or a character. It needs something. It's that big of a game for Nintendo, and it just shocks me that it doesn't have any references in Smash. Come on, Square, give it up. Thank you everyone for watching today's Rate Their Chances. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry to the Rayman stans out there. I know that section must have been frustrating for you, but I just don't see him having a shot. Ryu, obviously, I'm very excited to hopefully see in-game. And Chrono, God, I want Chrono so badly. And who was the first person I rated today? God, who did I rate first? KLONOA. I mean, KLONOA fans, I understand why you want him, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. But thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Next episode will be out next week, or possibly this week. It depends. And yeah, thanks for watching. Goodbye, guys.